According to the Census Bureau, in order to be considered below the poverty line, a family of four must make below $24,600. In Lansing, 12.6% of children under the age of 18 are from families whose income is below the poverty line. In Michigan, the number of children under 18 whose family income lies below this line jumps to 22%. This means that greater than 1 of every 5 children live in poverty. Out of all the school districts in Michigan, 16% of children live in school districts in concentrated poverty, which is one of the highest percentages in the United States. In this graph, the official U.S. poverty rates of 1968, 1990, and 2015 are shown. This is shown for race and age. As one can see, minorities and children make up a large proportion of this.
The Lansing area consists of 2 public school districts, Lansing and East Lansing. While close together, statistically they are very different. One can first compare the graduation rates to gain an understanding of each school system. Lansing has a much lower graduation rate at 56%, and East Lansing is significantly higher with a 90% graduation rate. Along with this statistic, one can take into consideration the percentage of students who receive free and reduced lunch to gain knowledge about who is attending these schools. In Lansing, 60% of students receive this accommodation, while in East Lansing, only about 30% of students receive free and reduced lunch. As seen from a table, a family of 4 must make under about $45,000. It can be concluded that a family must have very low income to receive this accommodation. One can conclude that there is a direct correlation between poverty and academic performance. This is tied to a number of different factors, including the available resources and exposure to things like spoken words.
Resources are a huge part of getting a good education. This can include resources from both their homes and in schools. For example, many schools in impoverished areas do not receive enough funding for basic materials such as an updated textbook, computers, learning materials, and so on. In addition to this, students will oftentimes not receive the necessary materials and support they need to focus on school. Students in low-income families frequently have unstable home lives. It's common for these students to encounter alcoholism, abuse, divorce, and more. All of these factors tie into lower performance from students in low-income areas and an increased gap between schools. In an article from the American Psychological Association states that poverty and dropouts are inextricably connected in 3 primary settings, these affecting healthy child and adolescent development. These include families, schools, communities.
A famous 1995 study by Hart and Risley demonstrated that by the age of 4, children from poor households hear 32 million fewer spoken words than their better-off peers. This causes children of poorer families to have a weaker grasp of the language, and this does not get addressed in their schools because they do not have the same access to resources and support that students in wealthier areas have. In this way, the problem compounds itself, and the students who need the most help receive the least, while those students who need less get more. As you can see, there are a lot of students in the United States who are in poverty, including the Lansing and East Lansing school districts. Poverty affects not only one's home life, but their schooling as well. On average, grades are lower because of the lack of resources and support. Because of this, students tend to do poorly on standardized tests and exams. In turn, students with lower grades will have a harder time attending college, thus explaining the gap shown between Lansing and East Lansing.